The hallmark feature of Google's Pixel Buds has always been its deep integration with the Google Assistant. Starting with the 2020 edition of the Pixel Buds, you could just say, hey, fill in the blank, and have the Google Assistant at your beck and call. But a few years later, and a few generations of Buds later, we now have the $230 Pixel Buds Pro 2. And more importantly, we also have a new assistant, Gemini. So to test out those two things, I've been learning a lot about New York City.
The Washington Square Arch, the Stonewall Inn, the IFC Center, the New York City subway system.
And as fun as this has been, and as much useless information as I have gained, what has quickly become clear is that the ambient future of my dreams, where the Google Assistant just knows what I want and tells me things when I need to be told them, is still just a dream. I'm Becca, welcome back to my channel where we take tech outside. Quick note, I was nominated for Rhodes Creator of the Year award, so if you got a minute, I'd really appreciate a vote. I'll put a link down in the description, and in the meantime, I haven't said this in a while, but Buds, it's time to talk Buds. Gemini is Google's latest AI assistant that aims to be more conversational and easy to use than the Google Assistant. And for simple tasks like setting a timer, asking about New York City landmarks, it feels just like the assistant, but with better voice options.
You can always change voice.
Feel free to keep
I'm ready to be your voice.
This is the one I landed on. Where Gemini starts to feel different is in the conversation mode, also known as Gemini Live. I'm trying to tell my audience what Gemini Live is. Can you explain?
Think of Gemini Live as your always on, super smart personal assistant. It's like having a helpful friend who can chat
So
with you.
I can cut you off at any time and we can have more of a conversation in Gemini Live, right?
Yep, you can stop me whenever you want, and we can go back and forth as much as
Wait, but
you
if
want.
I'm like stumbling through a question and I like don't have a thought formed yet, that's okay, right?
Totally. You don't have to have everything figured out before you start talking.
I
You can start with
appreciate you
whatever you're
saying that.
thinking.
Gemini Live is actually pretty fun. The problem is it just isn't that useful for me yet. And I think a lot of this has to do with the fact that there's so much it can't do. Like it can't access any device information, so it can't adjust settings. It can't show you pictures of videos. It doesn't have access to your location, your calendar, your inboxes, which is probably for the best because right now all this computing is not being done on device, but rather in the cloud. The problem is it just limits its usefulness. Not to mention, when you end a live conversation, the memory of that conversation is wiped. You can see it in your settings, but Gemini won't remember it. All this has really got me thinking, what do I want in an AI voice assistant? And the truth is, I want more situational awareness, which means I'd have to give up more privacy. So, for example, I would love if Gemini knew that I was on the way to the train station and told me a train is coming in 1 minute, hurry up, or you have 5 minutes, don't need to rush. I would love if my Buds had a local guide mode where when I was walking through a city, they would know where I was and could tell me about notable things in my surroundings. But again, all of that comes with an AI assistant knowing exactly where I am. And until that computing can be done on device, well, I'm not sure I want my location constantly sent to a cloud. Okay, but how about these Buds as just earbuds? And before we get to that, a quick message from our sponsor, Ridge. I haven't stopped using my Ridge wallet since they last sponsored a video on this channel, about a month and a half ago. It really is smaller and lighter than any wallet I've had before. It can fit up to 12 cards plus cash, not to mention it has RFID protections for keeping your information safe. You can also customize your wallet to have different cash holding options, an AirTag holder, or a MagSafe back. And this holiday season, Ridge is taking up to 47% off of some of their coolest items, including their wallet and key case sets. Gift for dad stumping ya? How about this tobacco brown leather wallet? Gift for yourself? How about this matte green carry-on that I've been eyeing for myself for months? So if you've been on the fence about buying something over at Ridge, now is definitely the time to bite, and you can use my link to let them know I sent you. That's ridge.com/Becca. Thank you, Ridge, for sponsoring my little channel. Now back to the Buds. Holy cow, we are really taking this mic test on the road today. And the first contestant is the Pixel Buds Pro 2. So we're in Washington Square Park, which if you're in New York City is an absolute must. It was built in 1871, and since then it has held some of the city's most important protests and rallies. But before it was a park, it was actually a cemetery, or more so a burial ground. And it's estimated that there's 20,000 people buried under this park. On top, though, is a melting pot of people and art and ideas. And when I have friends visiting, I always bring them here because I think it's a must-see if you're visiting the city. And my pro tip is to grab a coffee at Stumptown Coffees, which is right around the corner, and then, plop yourself right down and enjoy the view. Oh my god. I love them all. Fit is the most important part about an earbud, because even if it has the best ANC, insane battery life, and mics that sound studio grade, if the thing doesn't stay in your ears, you're simply not gonna use it, which is why I always tell people, if you get buds and on the first day they do not feel comfortable or don't fit right, return them and get a pair that does. The good news for the Pixel Buds is that Google made some really great improvements to fit this year. Compared to the previous version, these buds are 27% smaller and 24% lighter. Plus, they now have a microfin for a more secure fit. Microfin is not the official name for this tiny little fin, but that's a microfin if I've ever seen one, so that's what I've been calling it. I've had no issues with these buds falling out of my ears like the previous Pixel Buds. Those buds would fall out of my ears enough that I never felt comfortable commuting in them. I'm happy to report that's no longer the case with the new, smaller design, which is great. But because this fin tucks into the lower part of your ear instead of the upper part of the ear, it can be hard to differentiate these two buds because see, the fin comes out of the middle of the earbud rather than sitting on top. When picking them up off my desk or pulling them out of my pockets, moments when I wasn't pulling them straight out of the case, I've put them into the wrong ears and the wrong side of the case multiple times. It's so bad that I've been tempted to put a color indicator outside of the R and L that are on each bud to differentiate between them more easily. Do know that this is not a deal breaker in any way. It's like a silly Becca problem, but it's just never happened to me before, so I thought I'd share. And then the case is exactly the same as the previous generation, except now it features a speaker on the bottom for use with Google's Find My network, and it also gives an auditory signal when the case is low on battery. Talking about battery life, these buds promise 8 hours of listening time with ANC on or up to 12 hours with it off. And the case can get you up to 30 hours of playback with ANC on or 48 hours with it off. Zero complaints there. I also have no complaints with audio quality from these buds, but I'm no audiophile. You'll have to go check in with my bud Brandon at This Is Tech Today, which, hey dude, I hope you're well. I think the average user though is gonna be super pleased with how these sound. And thanks to new EQ settings in the Buds app, you can customize the sound to your liking. I found these settings on Reddit, and I've been loving the sound with it. As for ANC, which is highly dependent on fit, and again, I cannot stress this enough, get earbuds that fit. I found that the Pixel Buds Pro don't block out quite as much as the Samsung Galaxy Buds 2 Pro, and definitely not as much as the 2nd Gen AirPod Pros. So if you need the absolute best ANC, I would look elsewhere. Something I haven't been pleased with these buds though is the Bluetooth multipoint. When I'm using my Mac and then I have my Pixel next to me, I can summon the Google Assistant and ask it questions hands-free and it will answer from my Pixel. But if I want to change where I'm listening to music, I find that I have to go into my settings on either my Mac or the Pixel and switch to these buds in order to get them to play music. It's just been kind of strange. And maybe there's a software update in there somewhere, or maybe I'm doing something wrong, but not the best Bluetooth multipoint experience. So the Pixel Buds Pro 2 are by far the best earbud Google has ever made. They're seriously small and seriously comfortable, and they sound great. That being said, of all of the buds I've tested, they don't have the best ANC, and they definitely don't have the best mics. And Gemini, although I love that it's just at your beck and call without having to touch anything, I seriously love that. It's not quite like the ambient smart assistant of my dreams yet. And I think a lot of that has to do with privacy and cloud computing and AI algorithms. And there's just so much to figure out there. So I'm gonna be waiting for that for a little bit, I think. And that's okay. Google, please, take your time, do it right. In the meantime, I'm Becca. If you like this video, a vote for me in the Rode Creator Awards would mean the world. I'll link that down below. I appreciate you so much, bud. And I'll see you in the next one.